You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Incoming transmission.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
The online war for our culture, the civil war of the internet, is ongoing. And we have our update today on the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. Going to that now.
The war is going very badly for the Federation, far worse than is generally known. Starfleet Command believes that defeat is inevitable. Within 6 months, we may have no choice but to surrender.
Never give up, never surrender.
Never give up, never surrender.
Never let go, go, go. Never give up, up. Never let go, never give up. You can reach your end goal. Never let go, go, go. Never give up, up. Never let go, never give up.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The Millennial Conservative Resistance begins here.
Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new Millennial Conservative Resistance begins right here, right now, with you. You are listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network, here from beautiful western Phoenix, Arizona. Today is Sunday, December the 9th, in the year of our Lord 2018. And the war does go quite badly online. This morning, we awoke to reports from the UK, where Sargon of Akkad and Milo Yiannopoulos have now been banned from Patreon. This, the latest blow in a long series of defeats online for those of a different persuasion, politically speaking, those on the right, those who say political correctness must not stand. This is a story that we've been covering on the HoloNet going back to November 2nd, where we said no platform was the opening salvo of the Cold Civil War, and we listed out the casualties thus far. Casualties being chronological order, as far as the takedowns on Twitter are concerned. Robert Stacey McCain, Milo Yiannopoulos, Anthony Cumia, Sargon of Akkad, who was banned back in 2017, Roger Stone, James Alsop, Paul Golding, Jada Franson and the Britain First Party, Tommy Robinson, Owen Benjamin, Alex Jones and InfoWars, Gavin McInnes and the Proud Boys. And this was just on Twitter. Well, now we can add to the stack, as we did in early November, Gab was stricken down due to its many users who are on the far right or on the alt-right. Now we see very disturbing developments coming from Patreon. And manifest observable behavior seems to be the name of the game. In Carl Benjamin, also known as Sargon of Akkad's case, he was struck down for a live stream that he performed on someone else's channel, not content that he posted to his own Sargon of Akkad or the Thinkery YouTube channels, not something that he posted on Patreon. Now Patreon is policing you for content you do on other platforms. Who do they think they are? Jack Dorsey from Twitter? So, this is the ongoing trend where platforms platforms will no longer consider simply your behavior on their platform, but on all platforms. So, one could presume we'll be seeing this from Facebook soon. One could presume we'll be seeing this from PayPal, from credit card providers. How close are we to the social score in China when the corporations in the United States are already implementing it, but they're doing so in a clandestine fashion that is in conflict with their very own terms of use and terms and conditions? Because the terms and conditions on Patreon state that you will be taken off for issues on the platform if you post hate speech on Patreon itself. But no, the Patreon internal team has put that long to rest. Ben Shapiro chimed in tweeting, "You don't have to agree with people to think that politically driven social deplatforming is deeply dangerous." Patreon's targeting of Sargon of Akkad is just the latest example. Retweeted that on the HoloNet. You can follow us on Twitter as long as we're still there on @theHoloNet. But I have to agree with Ben Shapiro's analysis. It is becoming incredibly disturbing, the rate and speed with which conservatives are being taken down en masse online. And it's just the latest battle in a war that we seem to be losing. Now, I will tell you that I had a brief moment of hope in this past week when I found out that the Blaze and CRTV were teaming up to form Blaze Media. And I was thrilled at that because, being a Blaze subscriber, former Blaze contributor, and also a subscriber to the Mug Club, even though, hey, Crowder people, my mug hasn't gotten here yet. Could you kind of step on it a little bit? I know it's hand-etched and it's beautiful, work of artisanship, but I'd like my mug. As a subscriber to both, I was thrilled because that means I'm going to get the same content that I was paying like $20 a month for $9.99, which is pretty sweet. I'll take the win, paying half the price for double the content. But that came with some caveats. This past week, we came to find out that Michelle Malkin, a long CRTV holdout, has decided to leave the new combined Blaze Media. Okay, that I was expecting some attrition when they made this change, but then just last night I find out Gavin McInnes. Boom, gone. That's on the Blaze's Twitter as well. Let's see, Blaze Media, Blaze TV, @CRTV. Oh, that's Blazers. That's not what I want. No! Why do you do the thing that I don't want you to do the thing? Everybody watching on Facebook is probably getting a good laugh out of this. Well, let's see this here. Very simple, very, very no-frills tweet. Blaze Media no longer has a relationship with Gavin McInnes and per company policy cannot comment on personal matters. And the tweet storm started. People clearly disapproving of this. A lot of people saying they're going to cancel the Blaze Media now. This does not appear to be the right step to start out on. Blake Johnson, host of the BJP at Real Blake Radio, the Blake Johnson program fellow Lanterns alum, said this seems to be the exact opposite approach of what Glenn initially set out to do. Always be transparent, never silence voices that are fighting for the same cause. I don't even recognize the new Blaze anymore. And I got to throw that one alike. I mean, I don't know who backed out here. Was it the Blaze? Was it Gavin McInnes? What happened? It's not my place to say. But I do find it very disturbing because in this field, I was hopeful. The Blaze, Glenn Beck has hopped on his show and said, we're bringing voices together. We need to bring more voices together. And I was thrilled by that. I actually tweeted out in pure fanboy style. Let me see here. Tweets and replies. Still working on that cough, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah. Glenn Beck says they're looking for more voices to join the CRTV and the Blaze. I'm over here running the HoloNet like Hermione saying, pick me! Pick me! Not so sure now. But I do believe we need to see a greater cooperation and consolidation among the conservative right online and on the airwaves. That's one of the reasons that I created the HoloNet, because I want to create that forum of discourse. I tweeted Glenn Beck and Steven Crowder, ready to play, guys. Where do I sign up? There's no contributor program visible on theblaze.com right now any longer. For a while, they had the Blaze content sharing, which I signed up for several times. Unfortunately, haven't heard back. But I realize they're busy and that going into this, they've got a lot to deal with. But if we're trying to draw together these the conservative voices that are out there on the internet, what message are you sending when a week or so after your announcement, boom, Michelle Malkin gone, Gavin McInnes dropped with no fanfare, no explanation as to why. And Gavin now has a very difficult time offering one. Why? Because Gavin McInnes was muzzled on Twitter. He was taken off of YouTube long ago. So we're going to have to wait to see if somebody who still has a channel picks him up and asks him, Gavin, what the hell happened? The right-wing media online is dying to know. Who said no? Was it Blaze Media? Or was it Gavin? Following his episode where he distanced himself from the Proud Boys, what was the catalyst? We know that very recently the FBI came back out and said, no, the Proud Boys are not an extremist group. But then again, we also know that Australia listed him as a persona non grata and forbade him entry into Australia for a speaking tour. So we'll continue monitoring that story as it develops. I mean, this is kind of like the inside baseball, media rumor mongering that I don't like to engage in, but I want to know. Why do I want to know? Because that's the future of the battle. Because if we can't solidify, if we can't come together in the conservative mindset where we can accept a broad spectrum of conservative views and lock arms and hands together and stand and protect each other, then this is exactly the kind of crap that's going to happen. They're going to pick us off one by one. They're going to pick us off one by one, and burgeoning channels like Mojo 50, Godspeed, guys. I wish you guys the best of luck, because you're so far, the most hope that I see is in the coalition that is forming at Mojo 50. And I thought the coalition that was forming at Blaze Media remains to be seen. I can't wait for Steven Crowder to get back from hiatus. But these kind of coalitions of right-leaning thought are necessary because Patreon now, PayPal, credit card providers, American Express, MasterCard, Visa, Gab is gone, Twitter, Facebook, Google, they are arrayed against us. They already took out Alex Jones. Alex Jones might as well be gone. I mean, he's got his core InfoWars subscriptions. That's it. That's it. It's all going away. Gavin McInnes, get off my lawn. Gone. Sargon of Akkad is on the ropes now that his Patreon has been suspended. I mean, that's a significant blow to Carl Benjamin and how he gets money and how he operates. Milo Yiannopoulos, you almost never hear of anymore, of, past Breitbart fame, and then had a good individual career there. But he's been shut out from the online world. They're coming after us one by one because we're not banding together. And then we see this infighting, the Blaze versus Gavin McInnes. It's very troubling. Very troubling indeed. We need to come together. Social conservatives, fiscal conservatives, libertarians, everybody who is against this progressive nanny state, this big government that says, no, we know better than you. No, you're going to follow social justice doctrine. No, you're going to be politically correct. If you don't, we're going to shut you down. We need to band together and stand against these people. So far, MeWe looks like it's a good social media alternative to Facebook. I've been underutilizing it, and bad Matt, you need to get on that. So I'm going to try to post this show up on MeWe. YouTube, I've never gotten much of a launch out of. BitChute, I've been doing well on. Thank you, my BitChute watchers and listeners. But what is the future if we cannot stand together, despite the myriad differences in our viewpoints? The future of the conservative movement is where Milo Yiannopoulos and Gavin McInnes now sit. locked out, divided, and conquered. When we come back, we're going to talk about how the left views the GOP's methods going into the new order of Washington, D.C. We talk about what HuffPo and Salon think of the GOP's ground game. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. Stick around. All right, you're listening to HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. I am going to drop a little bit of wisdom on you today. We've made some big changes on the holonet.com, and you'll be able to find them right about down here in this region here, below all of our stories. And when you're reading a story on the holonet.com, boom, you've got our related products, which you can pick up. These are conservative tomes. These are the sources of our knowledge when it comes to the conservative movement here in the United States, and some of them are just good fun. You'll see here the Constitution of the State of Arizona. You can pick that up. Biopic on Ted Kennedy, Identity Crisis, the 2016 presidential campaign, Rules for Radicals Defeated, and Understanding the Arizona Constitution. Now, these are ads by Amazon. Full disclosure, when you purchase something off of Amazon.com on the HoloNet, that does go towards supporting our page, supporting our content. So please, make sure you check that out on the holonet.com. And now, here's the really cool part, our recommended reading list. Now, I posted this back on Facebook a while back, and here we have all the must-haves. The Constitution of the United States and the Federalist Papers, the Bible Promise Book, New World Translation of the Bible, and holy crap, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Jerry Doyle, Ann Coulter, Bill O'Reilly. There's a lot of Beck on here. I read a lot of his stuff. Dinesh D'Souza, Greg Gutfeld, and of course Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. If you want to pick up any of these recommended books, you can do that on the holonet.com/p/Matt's reading list, or just go to the holonet.com, click recommended reading. Finally, to take on a little tour here to the special offers section on the holonet.com. We have a free trial from Audible. You get 2 free audiobooks. You can start your free month of Amazon Prime Video. You can download free Kindle reading app and get $3 towards your ebooks, or start your free trial, your free 30-day trial of Amazon Prime. That's right, the HoloNet is now a member of the Amazon affiliate program. So please, if you want to check out any of those great services, go to holonet.com, click special offers, and get that today. That's on the holonet.com. Now back to the show.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The Millennial Conservative Resistance begins here.
Hey everybody, we're back. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. From Phoenix, I'm your host, Matt Holloway. Hey, did want to let you know that consequent to the Patreon debacle, Patreon hasn't really been doing particularly well for me anyway, so we're going to be moving away from the Patreon platform. Really cut them off at the pass before they do us. We're gonna do it to them. And we've gone ahead and created a subscribestar.com page upon the recommendation of people like Sargon of Akkad. I'm gonna put that up right here. This is subscribestar.com/the-holonet. Again, subscribestar.com/the-holonet. You'll be able to subscribe to us there. And so far, I've just opened up the $5 a month basic subscriber model here. So if you want to donate to the HoloNet, if you want to subscribe and be able to help us continue our work here at theholonet.com, that's a good way that you can do it. So again, that's subscribestar.com/the-holonet, and we will have links to that in the description, replacing the existing Patreon link, and also you'll be able to find shortcuts to that on theholonet.com. So thank you very much for that. Now, I said before the break we're going to go to where I can't believe I gave them the click, and I feel so dirty about it. Huffington Post. Huffington Post posts this morning in politics: Republicans around the country are working to declare Democrats unconstitutional, by Paul Blumenthal. And man, are we getting just a titch hyperbolic on this? Just maybe a little? I mean, this seems like it's even beyond the pale for HuffPo. It's kind of rough. Nobody's trying to declare a party unconstitutional, leastways I don't think. But Paul Blumenthal writes, the lame duck power plays by Republican legislatures in Michigan, North Carolina, and Wisconsin to seize power from newly elected Democratic Party executive officials are just the latest egregious efforts by Republican Party to deem Democrats unconstitutional. What does it mean when Republicans deem Democrats unconstitutional? It means that Republicans do not believe that the Democratic Party can legitimately hold power. Okay, I'm agreeing with you so far. It means that Republicans, the GOP, will use its power to enact last-minute laws to hurt Democratic constituencies and make it harder for Democrats to win power. If they somehow do, Republicans strip them of authority or prevent them from governing. I think there's another word for this. I think the other word for this is damage control. Yeah, that's right. Damage control. Freaking damage control. Preventing these wave-elected Democrat executives from hurting the people that elected them. Limiting their constitutional power. And here's another shot here. How about we're putting back into place the democratic constraints, the constitutional constraints that were placed on these executive officials that are very frequently rolled back by their Democratic office holders? Wrap your mind around that for a second. How many states have constitutions that starkly limit the powers of the governor, of the executive branch? And how often do we see those roll back when somebody with a D next to their name gets into the office? Something to consider. He quotes somebody saying, "We're going to have a very liberal governor who is going to enact policies that are in direct contrast to what many of us believe," said Robin Vos, the Republican Speaker of the House in Wisconsin, as he explained why Republicans would gut the authority of the incoming Democratic Governor Tony Evers. For Republicans, political power is now no different than an exclusionary childhood clubhouse. No Democrats allowed. Okay, so this Robin Vos is stating that they feel the governor will act in such a manner that contradicts the will of the people. This is why political debate is important. This is why executives should be, by and large, depowered. Why the greatest concentration of power within the state governments and within the federal government must be the legislature. This policy effort to refuse Democrats power at all costs did not begin with the lame duck session of 2018. What's happening now is part of an ongoing process by Republicans in the courts and in the elected office to increase power for their own wealthy interests, attack and divide Democratic Party constituencies, and create voting obstacles that dilute equal representation. And here we go, banging the old war drum for Citizens United. Oh, because people in groups like corporations, they shouldn't have the right to exert any kind of political influence, huh? Yeah. I'm not going to continue with this just because it's getting aggravating. Gerrymandering is something that I will give HuffPo their credit to. Gerrymandering is problematic. How is gerrymandering problematic? You're grouping constituencies together based on their political bias. to try to control and form redistricting. And this is a lot of what Salon concentrates on in their similar piece published this week. I read it, so you don't have to. GOP's anti-democratic red tide is ugly, but it's nothing new. Republicans across the country have responded to midterm defeats by trying to undo democracy. What can stop them? Their view of undoing democracy is redistricting. And redistricting is a huge issue. Here in Maricopa County, there's a effort underway to prevent the Democratic Maricopa County Commissioner from acting. They actually point that out here. Something very similar happening in County Board of Supervisors of Maricopa County, Arizona, where there's talk of stripping the democratically elected official of their power. And man, Salon's got a crap website. Look at this! Full screen pop-up while I'm trying to read the story. Nice job, Salon. Jesus. And you're throwing me to an ad that I didn't click on. Oh my god, that is annoying. That is a crap website. If the HoloNet ever gets this bad, somebody let me know. Really. Anyway, they're saying Maricopa County, where there's talk of stripping the Democratic election supervisor's powers as well. I'm going to follow up on that because that's in my backyard, and I haven't heard too much about it, to be perfectly honest. And Arizona is not the worst example of gerrymandering I've ever heard of. North Carolina's got some real winners. Probably the worst example of gerrymandering I could think of in Arizona is with the Hopi tribe up on the tribal lands in the north of Arizona, because the way it splits is the Navajos largely vote Democrat, the Hopis largely vote Republican. So the Hopi tribe is completely in their own election district, which is geographically interesting, but when you think about the cultural separations in the different tribes and how they actually represent separate sovereign entities, that kind of clears it up a little bit, just a little. But in other states, there's absolutely no excuse. I mean, it is bold-faced, separating out people by their voting histories and habits. You have some districts that are distinctly Democrat, you have some districts that are distinctly Republican, and they are deliberately formed that way. And this is a method to hedge your losses and improve electoral outcomes for your party. So there's that. It basically is a reinforcement of the two-party system. And I'm going to come out right here and say I am not for gerrymandering. I dislike gerrymandering. And I actually think that Arizona has come a long way and has actually improved situations. With our last redistricting, there were 2 major changes made, and that actually yielded Martha McSally's seat in the Tucson area. It was an interesting change, and I think it was a healthy change for Arizona because it saw the realization that there are good conservative populations. I'm not saying that Democrats are bad, but there are conservative populations down the southwest of Arizona that were underrepresented by the cold blue constant wave that comes out of Tucson. Furthermore, we have a really terrible example of districting here in Arizona, which is Raul Grijalva's district, which covers most of Tonopah, Arlington, Wintersburg, and the West Valley, the southwest of Arizona, which is predominantly conservative, but that's all wrapped up in Tucson. So you have rock-ribbed conservatives in the southwest of Arizona, in the border area of Arizona, who would absolutely love and crave representation that actually defends the borders, but they're stuck with Raul freaking Grijalva because they're lumped in with Tucson. So, yeah, stupid stuff too. Redistricting is ugly. It needs to be neutral, it needs to be bipartisan, and it's not in most cases. It's the winner gets to redraw the district lines. And right now, the Republicans are in control of a lot of those seats. So I can expect to see some pretty conservative wins as far as redistricting is concerned. And that is not something that overall pleases me. I want it to be a fair election because here's the thing. If you beat an enemy, and I mean, again, enemy, I should say opponent better because Democrats aren't the enemy. If you beat an opponent in a convincing fashion, they are more likely to treat with you and deal with you honestly. If you beat an opponent in a way that they deem to be cheating, in a way that they deem to be suspect. They will never acquiesce to anything you want on the negotiating table. You will never be able to work together with them. And that is the problem we have in this country right now, is every time one side wins, the other side goes, well, damn it, you cheated. And I'm going to do everything I can to prevent you from getting your way. And that's every single election in this country. We have not had a convincing win in this country, so convincing that the other side has to concede. Well, shit, they won. I gotta bleep that out in post. It hasn't happened. Where the other side has to go, well, geez, they smoked us. I mean, man, we got to give the American people what they want. Okay, so we got to deal with these guys. No, it never happens. It's, they cheated. They were wrong. There was election fraud. There was this. There was that. There was the other thing. There were corporations that were donating money. There was black money coming in. There was white money coming in. They were talking to the minorities only. They weren't talking to the white people. They were talking to the white people only. It was dog whistles. It was this. It was that. Every excuse imaginable except, gee, that was some election. We all put it out there, and you know what? They just really kicked our... You never hear about that, do you? No. It's always those bastards. Those bastards cheated. That is why we have such a problem coming together as a nation. Because we have not yet had a convincing enough victory by either side where either side is willing to concede without hard feelings. Take a quick break at the half. When we come back, we're going to talk about some hyperbolic reporting from the Express, perhaps, but ratcheting up tensions as we reported last week in the Ukraine-Russia border dispute in the Crimean Peninsula and the Sea of Azov. That when we come back here on the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. If you want to follow us, we're on the Twitters at the HoloNet, Facebook.com/HoloNet, where you're watching this live. We're also on YouTube at the HoloNet, BitChute, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, iTunes, Spotify, all places where great podcasts are found. Again, you're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Stick around.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
I see people coming together not for divisiveness of party or for dichotomy of thought, but for unity in principle. In the principles that founded our nation, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Today, ladies and gentlemen, those principles are under the sternest attack that we have seen in many generations. It has become a crime in this nation nearly to express a difference in opinion from what is held by your party to be doctrine, from what is purported by the media to be truth. We have an opportunity to reach out to our fellow Americans regardless of their creed and regardless of their political inclinations and unite as Americans. Not as Republicans or as Democrats, as liberals or conservatives, but to unite around the principles that have guided this nation so well. I've covered a lot of stories, but the story that remains untold is the story of America in the 21st century. When we choose to turn back the tide against progressive socialism. When we choose to embrace the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. When we remember what it is to be Americans. And that principle will not die as long as there's one man, one woman, one child who looks defiantly into the night and says, I am free.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The Millennial Conservative Resistance begins here.
And we're back. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. Thanks for sticking around. We got just a little bit under half an hour left to go here on the show, and we're going to go to the Ukraine and to Russia. First, we're going to go to the Express. The Express is, decent UK source. So we're going to express.co.uk. Warning of World War III. Perhaps a little bit hyperbolic here, but saying World War III fears as U.S. plane flies over Ukraine in show of support against Russia. This by Alice Scarcy, posted just Friday here. A U.S. Air Force jet carried out a rare observation flight over Ukraine on Thursday to reaffirm U.S. commitment to Kiev after Russia attacked and seized 3 Ukrainian Navy vessels last month. It has been confirmed. The U.S. Department of Defense has taken a clear stance over the ongoing tensions between Moscow and Kiev. The Wall Street Journal wrote, the U.S. Air Force OC-135 observation plane was flown near the Crimea, the Ukrainian region seized by Russia in 2014, the Pentagon said. U.S., Canadian, German, French, UK, Romanian, and Ukrainian observers were all aboard. The last time U.S. carried out similar military exercise was after the Russian invasion of Ukraine 4 years ago, U.S. defense officials said. The Pentagon branded the flight extraordinary in a statement saying it took place under the Open Skies Treaty. This accord gives the 34 signatories the right to gather information about the military forces and activities of another one through military observation flights. The official purpose of this treaty is to promote transparency in military activities, but in this case it seems to be carried out to show support to Ukraine as tensions keep growing with the Kremlin. The extraordinary nature of this flyover is in the fact that it was requested by the Arms Control Directorate of the General Staff of the Ukraine's Armed Forces. This is the second time in 2 days the U.S. military made a move that Russia could see as provocative. On Wednesday, the U.S. Navy sent the USS McCampbell, a guided missile destroyer, through the Sea of Japan in the vicinity of the Peter the Great Bay. This move is aimed at challenging Russia's excessive maritime claims in a demonstrative freedom of navigation operation, they added. Editorial note on my side, this is very similar to the freedom of navigation trips we've seen through the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea being performed by the U.S. Navy in interest to China. So, common thread here. The U.S. vessel was followed by a Russian destroyer and several warplanes. The challenge was shrugged off and even mocked by the Kremlin, who said on Thursday the vessel hadn't come closer than 62 miles to Russian territorial waters, adding that it got away at maximum speed as Moscow's ships followed it. So, looks like maybe a bit of saber rattling has gone sideways here and is now being used as fodder by Putin. Isn't that nice? The U.S. have issued a series of statements pledging Washington support to the Ukraine after the November 25 attack on the Sea of Azov. The Pentagon said in a statement, Russia's unprovoked attack on Ukrainian naval vessels in the Black Sea near the Kerch Strait is a dangerous escalation in a pattern of increasingly provocative and threatening activity. The United States seeks a better relationship with Russia, but this cannot happen while its unlawful and destabilizing actions continue in the Ukraine and elsewhere. Furthermore, President Donald Trump actually canceled a face-to-face meeting between him and Putin on the sidelines of the G20 summit. He tweeted, based on the fact that the ships and sailors have not yet been returned to the Ukraine from Russia, I've decided it would be best for all parties concerned to cancel my previously scheduled meeting in Argentina with President Vladimir Putin. I look forward to a meaningful summit as soon as the situation is resolved. So, we are seeing ratcheting escalations between the United States and Russia, getting worse, not better. All while, here in the United States, we are tearing each other apart. Our disunity within the United States and our inability to work with the other side, our inability to even work on the same side, is showing weakness to the world, and Russia is responding. We have to get our act together, kids. And we have to start here in our own house. We have to start here in the conservative world. Get our act together. Stop eating each other. That way we can present a united front in 2020, score some convincing victories that don't have an air of fiendish plot around them, that don't have an air of subversion. So that way, hopefully, people on the left will see that they can treat with us honestly. But now, just hours ago, this was published just 2 hours ago from Fox, Russia building up forces near the Crimea amid tensions with Ukraine, satellite photos show. 2 weeks after Russia fired on and seized 3 Ukrainian vessels in the contested Kerch Strait, satellite images obtained exclusively by Fox News on Sunday show that additional forces may be headed to the region. The images taken on Saturday show 3 Russian Ilyushin 76 cargo planes were spotted at the Zankoy airbase in Crimea. Sorry, my Cyrillic is not very good. The images captured by ImageSat International appear to show that Russia is continuing to step up and consolidate military forces in Crimea, which it annexed from Ukraine in 2014. According to social media reports in Russia, 4 Il-76 planes departed on December 6th from Anapa Airport in Novorossiysk and landed in Zankoy. One of these airplanes returned Saturday to Anapa, while 3 remained at the base. Ilyushin 76 planes are used by the Russian army to deliver outsized or heavy cargo unable to be carried on the ground. The cargo planes are also used for mobilizing large numbers of troops. Base of the elite unit of Russia airborne troops, the 7th Guards Mountain Air Assault Division, is located in Novorossiysk, not far from Anapa. The division's troops participated during the last round of violence between Ukraine and Russia in August of 2014, in addition to the fighting in Syria. The IL-76 was spotted at the same airbase where the 4th S-400 surface-to-air missile battery was deployed, as Fox News previously reported. The mobile S-400 missile has a range of 250 miles, can climb to an altitude of 19 miles, and is intended to bring down a variety of aerial threats from aircraft to cruise and ballistic missiles. The apparent troop buildup comes as Ukraine's defense ministry warned Friday that it will soon send naval ships through the Kerch Strait. Ukraine has responded to actions taken by Russia, including martial law for 30 days, a measure Kiev did not even take after Crimea's annexation, amid large-scale fighting between Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed separatists in 14 and 15. As part of the martial law, Ukraine has beefed up its forces on the border with Russia and called up reservists for training. Ukrainian Defense Minister Stefan Polchak told reporters Friday that his country intends to send naval ships through the Kerch Strait soon, saying that otherwise Russia will fully occupy the Sea of Azov. Folks, there is a proxy war brewing. And I'm going to make a prediction here. And God, I hope I'm wrong. It is my belief that Putin is waiting for a black swan event in the United States to time the aggressive occupation and total annexation of the Ukraine. And using that as a basis, will then seek territorial expansion, probably under a diplomatic guise, to Latvia, Lithuania, the Baltic states in general, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, even into Belarus. Putin has a vision not to restore the Soviet Union, no. He has clothed himself in the garb of the Russian Orthodox Church and tried to set up Russia as the defender of conservative Christendom, with extremely hostile rhetoric toward LGBTQ, AAIP, etc., so on and so forth, and embracing the traditional values of traditional Russian families and churches. The move to annex Crimea is a move to reabsorb the ancient territory of the Kievan Rus. The Kievan Rus, who took over the Russian Orthodox Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, following the sacking of Constantinople in 1453. And then royal marriages there, and eventual marriage to the Muscovites, set up this concept of Russia as the Third Rome. If you've never heard this history, there's a lot of good videos on it online. There's a lot of good YouTube on it. Glenn Beck does a nice rundown of it. But the Russian mindset is that Moscow is the Third Rome and is the rightful inheritor to defend Christianity and Christendom. It goes Rome, then you had the collapse of the Eastern Roman Empire, then it went to Constantinople at the head of the Byzantine Empire, sacked by the Turks in 1453. Then it went to the Kievan Rus, based out of Kiev and the Crimea, where the Eastern Orthodox Church was then centered, what they view as the legitimate Eastern Orthodox Church, that is, because, of course, the Ottoman Sultan tried to put up a puppet in Constantinople. That didn't really work out well. And then through royal familial marriage, the Kievan Rus became joined with the Muscovites and later evolved into the Russian Empire. This is why Russian emperors and empresses were called czars. The word Tsar comes from Caesar. You getting me? This is why one of the titles that the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Sultan put on himself was Kaiser-i Rum, Caesar of Rome, which the Kievan Rus and the Russians rejected, which is why when the Russian Empire was formed, they called themselves czars. They said, no, the Ottoman Sultan is not the Kaiser of Rome. They're not the rightful inheritors of the Roman mantle, of the Roman Empire. We are. And then the time of Charlemagne comes out, and you have the Holy Roman Empire, which rises up, which they say, no, we're the rightful inheritors of the Roman Empire. This is the deep history, the deep reasoning that we as Americans don't get, because we don't think in centuries. We think barely even in decades anymore. We don't even think in years. We think in 15-minute increments. The Russians are playing a game of eons. They're playing a game of ages, of millennia. We change what we're pissed about every 5 minutes. We are ill-equipped from a knowledge of our own global history, hell, from a knowledge of even our own American history. And we're so absorbed in our own internal comings and goings, in our own internal political battles, that we do not realize the game of the world is being played all around us. And that the Russians, they're friggin' playing for keeps. Europe is so involved in itself. The UK has looked inward and turned inward with Brexit and with all that BS. You've got people trying to restore the caliphate in the Middle East, and you have Russia trying to put together, trying to recreate the Russian Empire at its height. They're not going for the Soviet Union. They know that didn't work. What they're looking for is a fusion of the best aspects of the Russian imperial state and the best aspects of the Soviet Union, melding them together, because Putin realizes you cannot kill religion. And that was the mistake the Soviet Union made. The biggest one was they tried to kill the Russian Orthodox Church. They tried to kill the Roman Catholic Church. You can't kill faith. You have to give people their faith. So Putin has turned around and embraced the Eastern Orthodox Church, and now he will bring in the socialistic aspects of the old Soviet Union to the expansionist and imperialist aspects of the Russian Empire, meld them together, retake Kiev, not just the Crimea, but retake Kiev, retake the Ukraine, bring in line the Balkans. I mean, if I was in Armenia right now, I'd be paranoid as hell. They're playing for keeps, kids. And we as Americans have our heads wedged so far up our own... I was a little worried on that one. I'm talking fast, so I'm preemptively censoring myself. We're so absorbed in things that don't matter that we're going to let this happen. And when it does, the world will no longer believe in American resolve or dedication. A treaty or promise from the United States will be meaningless because we promised the Ukrainian people in 1991 that we would defend them. And their hour of need is coming. All it will take, and what I believe Putin is waiting for, is that black swan event. And I don't mean a terrorist attack. I mean the impeachment of President Donald Trump. If I were Vladimir Putin, I would be trying to stoke that flame as much as I can, because the second it happens, the United States will be mired in such internal strife, bordering potentially on, as we've said, the second Civil War. We'll be seeing violence in the streets if they attempt to impeach President Donald Trump. You know it and I know it. And that is when Russia will strike. That is the opportunity Putin will seize upon. And it may even be the opportunity that Xi Jinping seizes upon. Because we will be so tied up in fixing our own internal mess that we will leave the rest of the world unattended. And by the time we come to, raise our heads and look around, Britain will be a vassal state to the EU. The Middle East will be in even greater shambles than they are now. Israel will be beset again on all sides. China will be a powerhouse. Japan will have rearmed itself. And the Koreas may actually have a successful reunification in response because they're scared to death of the Chinese and the Russians. I'm not Nostradamus. I'm not a prophet. This is the way I see the game playing out. And you know, I might be wrong. I pray I'm wrong. I don't do a show like this often. Just because I know that I've just given a half an hour of fodder for everyone to go, oh my God, he's an idiot. Look, none of this happened. But it worries me. It keeps me up at night. And I pray that I'm wrong. Good night. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America. Thanks for listening, everybody.